Good afternoon and welcome to the HHH Racing Podcast. I'm your host, Howard Kravitz. This is episode 101. We are on our second of our 100th shows. Very excited for you to be here and to join us on this fantastic journey. We have a great show. Thanks for joining us today as we're starting a little bit earlier than normal. We have a fantastic guest today. I'm very excited to have this person on, and we'll bring this person on in just a minute. Before we do that, please make sure you subscribe right there on the right side of your screen. We have a lot of people watching the show, and I looked at some statistics, and about 1/3 of you have not subscribed. Again, it costs no money whatsoever. Just hit that subscribe button, and then that'll tell YouTube that this is a fantastic channel for people to watch. And then also hit that notification bell so that you know when new content like this show will pop up. Also, you can see on the name tag, of course, you can reach me on Twitter at HKravitz. I have a great number of followers, put a lot of exciting stuff up there. And also on the scroll on the bottom, you'll see my email. Please feel free to email me any comments, questions you have at hkravitzhorse@gmail.com. Also, you can see on below, it's just ending. Our next show is going to be on next Wednesday because of the holiday and because of my schedule. Things are going to be a little different, but I'm very excited. Next Wednesday night, time to be announced, we're going to be covering the fantastic, loaded stakes card at San Anita opening day, the day after Christmas on Sunday, the 26th. Always one of my favorite race cards to cover, and we have a fantastic guest for that. Also, very quickly, Race Day blog. If you haven't subscribed, makes a great holiday present. It's very cheap. I give specific ABC picks on there, spot plays and price plays throughout the country. Had a heartbreaking price play at 6-1 last weekend, lost by a nose with a brutal trip and ride that I won't even begin to talk about. If you follow me on Twitter, you know what I'm talking about at Gulfstream. Maybe our guest remembers that particular race. But anyway, great opinions and price plays on that race day blog. Highly recommend you take a look at that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, we're going to go ahead and bring on our guest, and I'm very happy to have this person. She's been very busy. In fact, the her work actually is probably still going, or just ended actually, because she covers Gulfstream like a glove. And today we're going to find out a little bit more about our guest and her background, and then also we're going to be discussing a fantastic card Saturday at Gulfstream. It's their championship meet, of course, has begun already, and they have 4 graded stakes. We're going to cover 3 of them with the late pick 5 sequence. I'm very happy to have on the wonderful, talented Acacia Courtney. Acacia, how you doing tonight?
Hey, I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it. All of our guests appreciate it. I know you've had a busy day. I think has the last race even gone off at Gulfstream yet?
I was working a little remotely today as my
Oh,
day
okay.
actually. I've been up since 4:30, so
Oh
it's
my
been a long
goodness.
day. I got up at the horseman hours this morning, being at Palmettos and producing and editing things for this weekend and handicapping and all of that kind of stuff. So, been a long couple of days, but obviously pick still up every day and looking forward to Saturday.
Yeah, well, you wear many hats, of course. We're going to get into that a little bit. We have a case for about 45 minutes, folks, and hopefully you'll be able to. I know you're a warrior, so don't worry about that early time. I'm sure you'll be fine on the show. I know our viewers, a lot of people have been asking about you, and I'm excited to have you on as I've sent things out. Let's go quickly before we handicap into a little bit of your background. And in case you're going to see some questions on the bottom of the screen from myself. And then also we'll have an occasional viewer. We have many viewers watching live today. Again, if you're watching live, folks, please make sure in the top right-hand side of the screen, you pop in that live chat. Any questions you have for myself or Acacia, we'd greatly appreciate it. So, Acacia, I do know answers to many of these questions, but our viewers probably do not. So, first of all, Acacia, what was the first moment you fell in love with horse racing, and how did you get started in horse racing in the first place?
I don't know if I remember a particular moment that I fell in love with horse racing. I started being involved in horse racing through the aftercare side of things. I grew up riding. I started riding hunter jumpers and dressage horses. I started riding when I was 8 and taking lessons. And when I was in high school, my mom and I started the nonprofit that we still run for aftercare for thoroughbred X race horses, which is called Racing for Home. And so the first place I actually picked up a racing form for real was the track kitchen at Suffolk Downs. So
Mm.
that was where we got our first horse that was kind of the catalyst for Racing for Home. Her name was Palisiva. And we kind of embarked on this endeavor, not really knowing exactly what we were doing with it, but ended up taking the plunge, and it's been truly a labor of love, but very rewarding. Seeing Racing for Home and seeing Racing for Home accredited by the Thoroughbred Aftercare Alliance as well, and having the opportunity to really grow that organization. And so that was what really got me involved into horse racing in the first place. And for me, it has always been the horse first and foremost. And so I think that the fact that I came in from the aftercare side of thing is something that's really stuck with me throughout my journey in racing.
Yeah, it's so important. I just had a fundraiser for the retirement fund as well, and I had Kim Weir on. I know you know who she is
Yeah.
for my 100th show. There's so many great non-for-profit organizations out there, and we recommend you look into Acacias as well because the horses need
Yeah.
our love. Before the races, after the races, we're not going to get into the specifics of what's been happening in the world of racing a few weeks ago. We're just going to press forward because that's been talked about ad nauseum. But we need to take care of the horses, and they will take care of us. Courtney, I have Kate, excuse me, I have a segment that a lot of my guests like that I bring on every time. It is called 10 Minutes to Post.
Mm.
10 minutes to post. Acacia, this is going to be 10 rapid fire questions. Some of them you probably take more like 30 seconds to a minute. Some of them you might want to answer very quickly. And then we'll get into our handicapping. Are you ready?
All right, ready.
All right, actually, before we do that, Keisha, I had a pleasure to meet you. You probably don't remember. You meet a lot of people, but I was with PTF at the Breeders' Cup. I had a pleasure. You were with a
Yeah.
group of people, and I did have a chance to meet you in person, even though it was for a fleeting 1 minute or so. But I just want to let you know it was a pleasure to meet you in person.
Oh,
And
I
there's
appreciate
reasons
that.
why I'd like to meet you in person again, perhaps in the Winner's Circle in New York at some time. I'm not sure if you know where I'm going with that, but we'll talk about that.
Yeah,
We'll talk about that a little later.
absolutely.
All righty, so here we go with our first 10 minutes of post question. Which is or would be more fulfilling, winning Miss Connecticut or Miss Connecticut earning an Eclipse Award? And you're going to have to give some people a little background on what I'm talking about.
um, wow, that's a tough one. Well, I was Miss Connecticut in 2014
Of course.
and Miss Connecticut USA, two different organizations for those people that are not familiar. So, winning Miss Connecticut is was and still is a very big part of my life, but I like to remind people that it doesn't justify me and doesn't justify who I am
Of
too,
course.
especially now all the years that I've been in racing.
Of
But
course.
it was a truly rewarding moment when I won Miss Connecticut back in 2014 because it was my fourth try doing it. It was something I
Wow.
had worked for a really long time. I don't know what kind of Eclipse Award I would win. Maybe something in media, which would be an incredible honor. But just as far as remembering that moment of winning Miss Connecticut, that was truly, truly a special day.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong. So I could be wrong. I thought there's there not a horse named Miss Connecticut? I thought, or am I mis? Am
No,
I?
there's a horse named Mr. Connecticut.
Okay, I great. Completely my fault, Keisha. I so much about it. Nothing to do with
That's
you then as
okay.
well. Obviously.
No, it's named after my fiance, Mr. Connecticut. So
Okay.
yes, we would love
I'm
that
a
too.
full-time school teacher. I thought I remembered it correctly. I don't make mistakes normally. I greatly apologize.
That's all
But
right.
you could win an Eclipse Award, for your broadcasting, of course, right? That'd be pretty
Yeah, for
cool.
sure. For
Okay, so
sure.
we'll get into that again. I apologize. I thought it was misgetting.
All
Okay.
good.
All
All
right.
good.
Well,
Yes,
anyway, we'll
Mr.
move on. How much more challenging is TV work versus radio work? Now, not everyone knows that you did do some, work on radio for ExpressBet and Horse Racing Radio Network, and of course, you're very well known for your America's Day at the Races, broadcasts on air. Talk a little bit about the difference between those two mediums and the difficulties or the similarities, or which one I suppose you like TV better because you're doing it now, but certainly they're very different.
I do. I'm a very visual person, so I love the visual aspect of TV and of being able to have that. The challenges with radio is that people can't see what you're doing, and that was something that I
Right.
learned in first doing it, and that you need to really describe what's happening, what you're seeing, why it's important, why it's special, so that people can feel like they're there with you. Whereas with TV, you do have a lot more opportunities to really show those stories, and sometimes, I mean, especially with horses because it is a visual sport, being able to see the way a horse looks in the paddock or see the way a horse is striding out, galloping out past the wire, whatever it is, coming into the winner's circle, that emotion on people's faces. I love that visual aspect of TV and really being able to show the stories in that way.
I think it's great what you do on air. We're going to get into that. I was actually a journalism major. I thought I'm a full time high school math teacher for 25 years. However, this is sort of my way of getting into media with horse racing. I was a journalism major. I always wanted to
Yeah.
be a famous sports broadcaster. Didn't quite pan out, so this is about as close as it gets for me. But I just really appreciate it's much more difficult, folks, than what it looks, and there is a lot that goes on behind the
Yeah,
scenes
for
from a
sure.
production work that a lot of people are not aware of. We have it's. I know it says Carolyn at the bottom of the screen, but it's actually Jim. Jim's a big fan of your Paddock insights. Jim, thanks for
Oh,
joining
thanks, Jim.
the show. And
Thank
he also
you.
has a question. Do you have a favorite in the ring interview?
Oh, that's a tough one. Let's see. Well, for those who don't know, I actually host a podcast as well on the sales and pedigree breeding called In the Ring
Right,
with Acacia Courtney, which is under the In the Money Media umbrella.
of course.
Let's see. Favorite In the Ring interview. I don't want to insult anybody either. I've had some really, really cool people on. I really enjoyed speaking to Jimmy George from Tattersalls because
Hmm.
it was different and it's something that I think that we've seen a lot more in American racing is the influence of those European
Yeah,
pedigrees and European bloodstock. And Jimmy's just such a fun individual as well. And his cat was in the background the whole time, which you might be hearing my cat in the background
no
right now.
problem.
So we really bonded over that too. But yeah, I think I really enjoyed that one because I really enjoyed the subject matter as well and being able to
Sure.
kind of talk a little bit more about the European sales. But no, I've had some really fascinating people on, and I think getting a chance to kind of dive into that side of the industry that we talk about in racing, of course, but it's not really covered as deeply. So I'm looking forward to a couple more big ones before the end of the year as well.
Well, and just I want to give I put this out on Twitter, but I'll put it on my podcast. The public congratulations to Jonathan Kinston and PTF and everyone involved within
Yeah.
the money for being named second year in a row through ABR, the best podcast in the country. And Acacia, I do some work for In the Money as well. I write for their blog, and I've been on the Players podcast before with Nick Tamro and PTF and other people. So we are coworkers, so to speak. Although your role obviously is much bigger than mine. But congratulations to In the Money Media. Fantastic for the second year in a row. Really great stuff. And by the way, love the sign you have above there, above your right shoulder there in the background. I think
Oh,
Michelle, you who I've had on the show a few times, Acacia, I know would appreciate that sign because she is definitely a wine and champagne connoisseur.
yeah.
Next question: what's the best advice you've received from an on-air talent, and from whom?
Well, when I started with Horse Racing Radio Network, I sat next to Anthony Stabile for a few years doing what was then called Express Bet Radio, which
The
was
Big
the Wednesday
A.
to Friday. Yeah, the Big A, who is a dear friend as well. And I don't know if there was one piece of advice I got from him. The best single piece of advice that I had was always try to be more prepared than everybody else, which sometimes you can go down a rabbit hole in racing. I don't think you can ever really be over prepared, and that's something that I do pride myself on. But what I really appreciated about Anthony, especially when I was first starting out, is that he was really patient with me and he was non-judgmental, and I think that that's a problem that we have sometimes in racing is that people who don't understand the jargon that we use sometimes can kind of be maybe fluffed off a little bit, and there are so many people who are willing to take time and explain. But when I first got in racing, I knew horses but I didn't know much about the industry, and I was really embarrassed to ask those kinds of questions. What does this symbol in the daily racing form mean? Why is this kind of move or change significant? And Anthony was somebody who at the beginning was really very kind and very very helpful, very willing to help me and improve my handicapping in many ways.
Anthony, I love. I've actually tried to get him his contact information. Maybe we'll talk off air because I love to have Anthony on. And Acacia, you're one of many fantastic, analysts on TV. And I've had several female analysts on. I've had Michelle Yu on. We've talked about many. Angela Herman, who's up at Canterbury, and there's so many fantastic women that are. Kate Bradar, fantastic women that are on air and do a fantastic job. And whether it's a man or woman, always everyone needs a chance and everyone needs someone to sort of help them along. And I've had many, male reporters on as well, of course, that someone has given them a hand and helped them out. And you're a perfect example of that. And let's talk a little bit about this question because I've asked this question to a few people. Again, I think it's really important to have men and women on the air and talk about everyone because and I don't want to use the one unfortunately that word is a tricky word, but it is sort of a male dominated sport, for better or for worse. And, I think it's really important that we grow the number of fans on the female side and more jockeys. And I bring up Michelle because she brought up two great jockeys out in California, Emily Ellingwood um, and Kayla, who are very popular out there. And we need more women riders as well. Julie Crone is one of my favorite riders of all time. How can we increase the number of female fans coming to the track, in your opinion?
Think we have to stop insulting them personally. The fact that for much of marketing that horse racing does is here's the gambling and horse side of things for the men, and oh, here's the pretty dresses for the women. Yeah, that's great. I love getting dressed up for the races, but don't treat me like that's all I care about, and to me that's insulting. And I think that that's something that we still have to work on in racing on a very broad scale. I don't think that it should be specifically targeted to trying to bring women fans in. It should be targeted to bringing fans in. And, yes, there is a large population of women who are involved in horse sports and who love horses, who love animals. That's amazing. That's wonderful. So give the tools to how to handicap, how to read the racing
Yeah.
form, how to bet and have fun, how to watch and have fun, even if you're not gambling on the sport. And I think we need to stop dumbing it down. You look at any other sport, you look at football, you look at basketball, you're able to find all of the stats, all of the information easily online and be able to form what you feel like is an educated opinion. And you can do that with horse racing too. It's just hard to find sometimes.
Yeah, and also there are some all-female syndicates. I think we need to get younger people involved as well. I've seen it suggested of racetracks allowing maybe fans, 21 to 30 free programs or get them in free. Again, anything we can do to grow the game. Again, men or women doesn't matter. Needs to be done, and I totally agree with you. And by the way, in case there's any chauvinists out there, some of the sharpest handicappers out there are women. They've won several handicapping tournaments. I mean, so again, there are bright minds everywhere. We need to get everyone involved, and especially, I would target the younger people, Acacia, because as you know, I think probably the median age of a horse player is somewhere around 50, and we really need to continue to grow that younger group of people. Um, Bucket list track or race day event you'd like to attend in the world?
Oh, I'd love to go to Royal Ascot to just have the experience of being there. I love European racing. I love European pedigrees, and being able to go there would definitely be number one on the
Mine, by the way, I'd love to go to Melbourne for the Melbourne Cup. I think that would be
list.
just unbelievable, and they they like to have a lot of fun, from what I understand, down there in that race.
Yeah.
Best or most memorable horse racing event you've ever attended? It's a tough one.
hmm I had the opportunity to go to the Hong Kong international races. I've
Oh
actually been to
wow,
Hong Kong three times,
wow.
but the first time that I went was, I believe it was 2017. And we were hosted as part of a group from all over the world, all different backgrounds, to come and be kind of promoters, do social media on the event and on the Hong Kong international races. And got to see some of the best horses in the world running there, see how they do racing in Hong Kong, which is absolutely top class, top quality, both Shatin and Happy Valley. Just an incredible experience from start to finish. And that's really just kind of like the real international worldwide event that really stands out to me.
I think what pre-COVID there'd be what like 100,000 people. I mean, they're just watching on TV.
Packed, absolutely packed.
Watching on TV,
Yeah,
Acacia, it just
people
sounds
love it.
electric. The atmosphere just
Yes.
seems like I thought Keeneland is, pretty exciting when it's packed, but that's only like what 20,000 or something. I can't
Yeah,
imagine what
for sure.
Hong Kong is like when they're storming down the stretch there. It just has to be unbelievable feeling.
Mhm.
We're gonna two more quick questions, then we're gonna get onto our handicapping, folks. I thought this is a very important question. I really appreciate Acacia all the work that you and Maggie do, especially in the paddock. It's something that I've been working on. I've been handicapping for 30 years, but really in the last, I'd say 10 years, I've really tried to focus more on listening to, if I'm not there in person, of course, listening to what people have to say, analysts like yourself, about paddock reports. Is there a particular behavior from a horse that you feel is more important? For example, is it their coat? Is it perhaps the way they walk? Is it their ears being pricked? Is there something in particular that you're like, that is a horse I really think is going to run big today?
I think it's tough to say one particular thing because horses, like individuals, are like people are individuals. And for me, the most important thing is noticing what's typical of that horse and if anything is different. And if it's different, if it's a benefit or a negative. So that's the where the notes come in, the very detailed notes on all of the horses that I keep, that Maggie keeps, that I know a lot of other people do. It's, yes, trip notes are important, but I note down if that horse's coat doesn't look good. Maybe that's a typical of that type of horse. If that horse typically doesn't carry really good weight, really good condition, you say, oh my gosh, wow, look at this horse today. He looks so much more fit, so much stronger than he typically did. Those are types of things that I think are probably the most important things to notice. It's the changes. Is it a different type of equipment, a different bit, a different type of blinkers? So you have to be really, really observant in those types of scenarios. And I'm lucky to have a strong visual memory, but
Hmm.
I really rely on those notes because I'll note down if I want a horse to go a different distance or a different surface, or like I said, if there's an equipment change, or if you say, oh, this horse has a tendency to lug out in the stretch, and then you see them put an extension blinker on, you can kind of gauge what the intent is behind the scenes off of that. And if that horse is showing positive or negative, is it a move forward or is it a regression?
And that's something that I'm going to watch very carefully because down at Gulfstream, Acacia, and I'm sure you've seen this already. There are a lot of horses coming up from the north right now. It's not negative 20 degrees up on the East Coast right now, but there are horses that have been coming down as you've seen already from the New York area, and they definitely have to acclimate because it can get hot and humid in Florida. And if you see horses, I'm assuming sweating out in the paddock, especially horses that don't normally, that's obviously a key negative. So I would suggest to the viewers, if you're betting Gulfstream, not only of course listen to the broadcast and Acacia, but take a look at the horses because when they need to acclimate coming down from a different climate, and that's why when I look at the PPs, Acacia, I like to see horses coming from the north or east coast. From the northeast that have workouts down at Palm Meadows or somewhere where you can tell they've been down there for a while and acclimating. Last question: do you have a favorite horse?
Favorite horse of all time or
Sure,
currently?
whatever you maybe a barn horse you really have a favorite affinity for, whoever you like.
A favorite horse of all time is Ruffian. That was
Hmm,
kind of a story that captured me when I was young, and just the amazing
sure.
feats that she did on the racetrack. I wouldn't want to single out any of my babies, but
Okay.
we have a horse named Sweet Flattery that um, only ran once up at Saratoga. He was trained by Chris Alcamont, and he's been retired. He's with my mom currently, and the plan is for him to come back as the stable pony this summer. And he's basically an angel with four hooves. He's the
Wow.
sweetest horse I've ever been around.
Well, I have two favorite horses that I'm gonna meet next week, and I'll just go ahead and throw a little spoiler alert out there. As some of you know, listen to the broadcast. Keisha, I announced on my 100th show that myself and my brother are now I have partially owned of two horses. They are both down in Ocala. We're very excited. They're yearlings, and one of them is knock on wood going to be trained by your future father-in-law, if I may say, Christophe Clement. And so I think it would be fantastic. I have sort of a vision. Okay, so I have a vision. This would be sort of a dream. But I can see a winner's circle picture with yourself, your fiance Miguel, his good friend Joe Migliori, who was the bloodstock agent for that horse, Matt Cuter, who's with Adelphi Racing, my brother, and of course your future father-in-law. That would be a nice grade stakes picture with yourself, of course, wouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I usually don't get in the winner circle pictures because I try to stay,
We'll get you to that one.
professional. But I will make an exception for you if we get
All right,
there.
we're very excited. Probably it's a Taproot colt, and he's probably going to be, if all things go well, it's probably a little bit of a later developer, big scopy two-turn horse. He'll probably later next year. We're very excited to have your future father-in-law training that horse down
Exciting.
the road. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's get into the handicapping, Acacia. A lot of people are going to be very interested in the late pick five on Saturday. And Acacia, I am the host, the producer, the editor. So if you see me clicking some buttons or looking around at different screens, that's what's going on. I'm going to go ahead and bring up the past performances right now, Keisha. We're going to take a look at it. And this starts in race 7. Again, this is Saturday, folks, the late pick 5. Acacia, it's a fantastic card. There's, as you can see on the screen there, 4 graded stakes. We're going to talk about 3 of them. There's 1 grade 2 and 3 grade 3s. But the late pick 5, and I apologize, I didn't get your picks. I'm not sure if you sent them in and I
Oh,
missed
I'm
them or
sorry. I had a crazy day. I
no, no,
didn't see
no.
your
It's
email until right before.
no problem whatsoever. You can just say your picks on air and people can write them down. Or maybe if I have a chance, I'll go ahead and type them in. On the bottom of the screen, you're going to see my picks there. And again, as Keisha goes through her picks, I'll go ahead and try to type those in. The first race, Acacia, is on the all weather. Of course, the Tapeta new surface down there, 5.5 furlongs, 10 claimers. I found this to be a very difficult race. Acacia, who do you like in the first leg of the pick five?
Oh, it's funny. Every time you say it's a difficult race, there does seem to be some agreement. So I do agree with you on the top 2 there. Star Weaver, with all due respect, it's a significant barn change with this one. First off the claim, Jorge Delgado has very strong numbers off the claim and does lure Luis Saez. I like that this horse already showed that he was able to handle the Tapeta last time out sprinting. I much prefer him sprinting than going the distance of ground. The speed of Allegedly Perfect makes a lot of sense too, with this one again also showing a bit of an affinity for the Tapeta. I used in third the number 3 Kitten Street, who is first off the claim for Jerry Thurston, who did have a horse run the other day with a really troubled trip and ran an unbelievable second and was truly much the best. So I wouldn't overlook this barn, who just has limited stats on the year. But this horse cutting back in distance and off the claim, I thought was pretty interesting as a bit of a price underneath. I agree Hurricane Hill could potentially be intriguing, but he comes back in 6 days and it seems like a give up move to me.
I believe so. 673. Did I hear that
Yep.
correctly for you?
Yep.
Few quick stats that Acacia already sort of hinted on. On the 6, Jorge Delgado, 27% off the claim last 5 years. So first off the claim, very good. You mentioned the mod horse, and I found this mod horse very interesting. Obviously, coming back real quick, Acacia, I looked at some stats. Bill Mott, 4 to 10 days. Only 20 lifetime starts for Bill Mott, so he doesn't do it very often. And by the way,
Mm-hmm.
folks, only 1 for 20. Although his one win Acacia was with Casa Creed and Junior Alvarado. So he's done it before. He's done with the Alvarado. But I didn't really know what to do with this horse. I mean, the horse really fits, but coming back very quickly is just not a move that Bill Mott does. I think you have to spread pretty deep in this race, Acacia, in the opening leg. Would you agree with that?
I do agree. I think that we saw kind of early on in the meet that outsides closers were really doing well in the Tapeta. And I think if people have some trepidation about it, I think a lot of the horsemen are still figuring out as well which horses really suit the surface. So again, I like to see horses that either have a pedigree to suggest it, trainers who've had success putting horses on the Tapeta, or horses that have had experience on it.
You just touched on this a little bit, Dean G. Quick question: have you noticed any general trends from the Tapeta track? He believes it does favor closers, in his opinion.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have yours is not an opinion. You actually have factual data that you can give people.
Well, it just felt like looking at times, they do tend to come home relatively slow. So it feels like I said, the first couple weeks was definitely outside closers. I think it's mitigated a little bit more now, but
Okay.
in general, horses do tend to come pretty successfully from off the pace. I think by virtue of the fact that they come home a little bit slower on that surface.
Have you noticed at all, by the way, and I live 20 minutes from Arlington Park, which unfortunately is closed, but they had Polytrack. Have you noticed when the weather gets warmer, have you noticed that the Tapeta is a little bit slower with the times or is more favoring closers? Because that's what I noticed. Again, every synthetic is different, but have you noticed the weather or the humidity or the um, how much moisture is perhaps in the Tapeta affected the times or the race flows?
Unfortunately, I wouldn't be able to comment on that question because
Okay.
I just came down to Gulfstream for December 3rd, and we haven't had hardly any rain, and it's just been bright and sunny every day. The weather's been pretty
Sounds
much the
horrible.
same every day. I know it's been pretty well. It can actually get cooler this time of year, and it can be very rainy as well. And it's been pretty much the same since I've been here, and I just didn't follow enough in the summer to be able to give an opinion on that.
No problem. Sorry to put you on the spot there, but
No, no, it's all good.
it's gonna be
Yeah.
something for people to watch. As we went,
Hmm.
on a rainy day, for example, if speed holds up better and it tightens that Tapeta track. All right, let's go on to the grade stakes. Fantastic grade stakes. There's three of them. The first one is the Grade 3 Sugar Swirl. By the way, that first race is a 12 horse field, folks. So that's going to be
Mhm.
a tough one. This is an 8 horse field. It's a Grade 3. It's 6 furlongs. It's for fillies and mares, 3 up and older. $100,000 purse. Who'd you like in the Sugar Swirl, Acacia?
So I felt that there was going to be a pretty honest pace in here. Center aisle, who you have on top, I respect. I ended up going a little bit begrudgingly with Frank's Rockette just because even though I don't necessarily trust her, and I thought that her last couple of races weren't as strong. To be fair, Bell's the one, and Club Car have been putting on great performances so far. So she was my top pick. I had Center Aisle in second, and my third place choice was the 7 Bronx Beauty, who I nearly put on top because I thought that she would be the true closer. Unfortunately, she's 0 for 6 at Gulfstream, and I think I've picked her every time she's run at Gulfstream. So I've really been hoping in this race last year, she was beaten ahead by Ladies Island, who's very quick and really dominated those dirt sprint stakes last year, the last couple years at Gulfstream. But unfortunately, that was kind of like the bright side as far as her stakes tries. We'll see if she can run back to that. And I thought if she's a generous price underneath, I think she'll be a little bit higher than that 6-1 morning line.
Yeah, the speed might set up, and of course you got Tyler G, who's just a fantastic rider, having a great year as usual. I definitely agree that Frank's Rockette can win. I don't like this price at all, though, Acacia, this morning line. When I say I don't like that, I mean I agree with the morning line. I just would never bet this horse
For
at
sure.
9 to 5. It just seems like she really hasn't progressed as a 4 year old. I mean, she was fantastic last year, Courtney. She just really has, Acacia. I'm apologize. I have a student that named Courtney about 2 hours ago. Acacia, I don't think she's really progressed, and to me that's a concern, especially with fillies. I'm not going to show the replay just because I want to make sure I respect Acacia's time and get her off the air like I told her I would. Um, Maybe perhaps later in the show Lori Lupes had a very interesting trip last time on
Hmm.
the inside. Clearly didn't like the inside to me. And really, I thought ran just as well as two others that are in this race, if not better. And the four, to me, Acacia, might be the only horse in this race that's actually improving with a bunch of upside. So if the pace gets hot, you like Bronx Beauty a little bit as a closer. I'm a little interested at Laura Lupes at 10 to 1 to get into the mix. Go watch that replay, folks. She was stuck on the inside. Her head was sort of, cocked to the left. Didn't look like she was very comfortable and made a little bit of a late run and galloped out well. So just keep this horse in mind, folks, if you are searching for a price. Let's go ahead to the next race. This is going to be a fantastic race, Acacia. It's the Grade 3 Harlan's Holiday. It's only a 6 horse field, but it's a very good one. You can see the one there on the screen is the morning line favorite, who I like. And by the way, Acacia, I handicapped this without the morning lines. As Acacia
Hmm.
knows, the entries came in very late yesterday, or later than I thought they'd come in. Then, of course, the morning lines were probably posted sometime today, I'm assuming. Acacia, who do you like in the Harlan's Holiday?
Well, I'm with you. I just couldn't get past Mighty Heart. He is the reigning Canadian Horse of the Year. He's been really consistent on both the Tapeta and on the main track. You look back at what he's done up at Woodbine, winning the Queen's Plate. It's such a prestigious race as well, and then showing that he's gone on as a 4-year-old, and even looking back at the stakes win at Churchill Downs and the Blame, I thought really kind of disputed any conversation that he was just better up in Canada or better on synthetic. I, like you, also had Fearless in second. I wish that I could trust him as much as I did in the Gulfstream Park
Mhm.
Mile last year because I was blown away by him. The fact that he didn't win last time, and I realized that he still ran a good second and it was off of a layoff, but I just have my questions about him. He's a very gigantic type of horse. And I think sometimes he's almost his own worst enemy as a result. And then I ended up using the number 4 Eye of a Jedi in third, who I think is kind of rounding back into form and actually ran some really strong races last year. Is he as good this year? We'll see. But the fact that Javier Castellano takes them out, I thought was intriguing.
So you're going 164, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay,
Hmm.
we'll go ahead and put that on the screen. You brought up, I mean, you do such great analysis, Acacia. You stole my thunder on a few things. I'm very happy that you
Sorry.
did. No, 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 no. I'm happy you did. Fearless just looks huge. I mean, I've never seen him in person, and you were not down at Gulfstream for that race off the layoff. I don't know if you watched that replay,
Hmm.
Acacia. And if you did, I apologize. If you said that, I was switching some buttons. But um, obviously, that's a big drop in the buyers. Pletcher, by the way, 23% last 5 years, second off the layoff 2 to 6 months. So you would think Fearless is going to improve, but really, this is a 5-year-old gelding Acacia who is about to turn six. I mean, very light, only 10 starts. So obviously, he's had some physical issues. I don't think there's any guarantee this horse is going to bounce back to a big number. Although I will say, Acacia, I think this horse is much better on the outside of horses. I don't think this horse, because of his size, wants to be down inside. I don't know if you feel the same way, but I think the outside post and maybe the extra distance too is going to help Fearless. But I agree with you with Mighty Heart. I mean, I first thought it was, wow, this is the horse from Woodbine, right? Who always wins on the synthetics. And then you take a look, I mean, a 96 buyer, if you believe in buyers, which I do, and Mountaineer in a grade three. They run perfectly fine, as you said, at Keelan and Churchill. I mean, this is not just a synthetic wonder at all. And it just seems like this horse runs every time, Acacia. And it's
Hmm.
also hard for me to believe that he's not going to get a great trip from the inside with Johnny V. I'm assuming, I don't know how you feel about the race flow. I'm assuming he's going to let Blue Steel go and just sit right off. Is that how you envision the race flow in this event?
Well, Blue Steel is coming back just 2 weeks after his win in the Claiming Crown Iron Horse, and obviously class is a big question. I would imagine kind of their only game plan and their main idea of being able to have a shot and potentially grab a share would be to be aggressive with him. Mighty Heart has shown in the past that he doesn't need to be on the lead. He won the Prince of Wales coming a little bit off of it. So that was intriguing for me. I just feel like even if John Velasquez is going to break sharply out of there, and he's going to wait and see what Paco Lopez does to his outside. My guess is that Paco Lopez will try to come over and set the pace on Blue Steel because that's their biggest chance. In which case, Johnny will have inside position, saving ground. It's a very short run into the first turn, going a mile and an eighth at Gulfstream.
Right. So he's going to have to be, I mean, obviously he's going to be aggressive, but I don't think Johnny V's never struck me as one who's going to get into like a crazy pace duel, especially with Paco Lopez to his right, who's obviously very aggressive. And by the way, coming off a suspension, correct, and we'll be
Mm-hmm.
riding on Saturday. He just is coming off a 3-day suspension, I believe. Is that correct for our
Yep,
viewers?
that's correct.
Okay. Okay. And just very quickly, touching on Eye of a Jedi, really nice, gutsy gelding, 6 years old. Boy, I mean, he's won almost $400,000. What a fantastic training job for Eye of a Jedi. And look at the Gulfstream numbers. You see they're quick math. I'm a math guy. 19 out of 24 in the money. I think he is better one turn. I'm not sure if you agree with that. I've seen him running many times, but um, he could bounce back. Although Casey, he is sort of tailing off a little bit also. So I think that is a question mark, don't you think?
Yeah, I actually think he's better 2 turns, just
Okay.
personally. And
Okay.
looking at the way that he won the Ghost Sapper going a mile and an eighth, and he did it impressively and over a salty field. Performer was in there. He beat Last Judgment, who would go on to be a graded stakes winner as well. Yes, he has not been as good coming back in the latter part of 2021. He gets back to the 2 turns, and I think that this is the opportunity. Like I said, I don't completely trust him. I think the other 2 are just better horses, but he did lure Javier Castellano for the mount, and he will be running late, if anything.
Sure. And then we need to get to some other races here, but South Bend, I have in the mix, who won last time at Churchill, obviously can win if the pace situation sets up. All right, let's get to the feature race of the day. This is the Grade 2 of Fort Lauderdale. I'm going to go ahead and put my picks. This is a prep, folks, for the Pegasus Turf, which is going to be run on the Pegasus Day in late January. Hard to say how many of these will actually go in that race, though, Acacia, because I'm not sure some of these class up in a big Grade 1 event with for several $1 million. However, this is a very nice field. Who do you like? And this is, by the way, mile and eighth on the turf for older males. Who do you like here, Akeisha, in the Fort Lauderdale?
Well, I think we're going to have a pretty good pace in here. Chad Brown represented by 2. Um, I don't know what happened last time, and it concerns me, but I ended up going with the 3 breaking the rules, who was disappointing in the Artie Schiller last time out. I do feel like that the mile and an eighth, the mile and 16th type of races are really right up his alley. You look back at him in the Fort Lauderdale last time, and if you haven't, go and watch that race because he was actually my pick that day as well. And he had a
Hmm.
nightmare trip,
Oh
was running
gosh.
late. They did run him in the Pegasus World Cup turf, which Shug McGee, he said afterwards, was just too far for him. And it's true. And he ran really well off the layoff at Saratoga to get that win over Sacred Life and Analyze It. Analyze It came back with a monster effort last time. I just think Analyze It truly is a miler. Um, Chad Brown's other horse, Imperator, was who I used in second, and Doswell in third.
Yeah, Chad Brown has 2. You mentioned, I'll go ahead to, don't want to be switching, the screen too much here. There's Analyze It. Boy, I don't know what to do with this horse, Acacia. I mean, you figure Chad's going to send, not really as a rabbit, but I mean, he's got a 1-2 punch here. Analyze It has some huge back numbers, when he was a 3-year-old. But again, this is another sort of ouchy sort, only 14 lifetime starts, but should have the lead. And I suppose on his best day on a firmer turf course, and the weather's going to be fine on Saturday. And as Acacia said, the weather's been nice already down there. I think he's a threat. I'd much prefer the 2, like you said, L'Imperator, who seems to be sort of on the come and improving. And we'll get an inside trip for Madacat Stables. So obviously, I like the 2. I do like Space Traveler. You didn't mention the 12, so I'm interested in getting your take on Space Traveler. I was hoping for some higher odds. Apparently, Brendan Walsh, the case I've read, has sort of pointing this horse to this race and hopefully onto the Pegasus uh, turf. I don't know about the distance. Maybe this is more of a miler type. What was your overall take on Space Traveler? Tricky horse to figure, I think.
He was the quote unquote fourth pick, as we
Okay.
do top 4 picks at Gulfstream as well. No, I mean, I have respect for this horse. The only 3 races that he's run in the United States have been Grade 1 affairs, and he's faced some nice horses in his last few races too. So yes, the distance was a question for me. He ran some good races, largely at a mile over in Europe. He has to work out a trip from the outside post on the turf. So important to save ground. It's all about the trip, especially at Gulfstream. So an outside post is really not an enviable position to be in for him. The fact that there is a full field of 12 in here, I would imagine he's going to take back. And like I said, there should be an honest pace with the presence of Analyze It. He's got King Guillermo right to his outside. I think
Yeah.
Order in Law will be aggressive. I think that Media Blitz will be forwardly placed. So we'll see if he's able to work out a trip and close from off of it. He'll have to prove it against this caliber of horses, as he again hasn't been able to get the win in the U.S. as of yet.
Yeah, it's gonna be a fantastic race. You'd think there'd be pace. Don't even get me started on the pace in turf races in New York this past summer because it's driven myself and Andy Serling, a lot of people crazy. But this is Gulfstream, and I think you're going to see more aggression down at Gulfstream on the turf, and especially in this race. Keisha, I really respect your time, so let's go ahead and jump to the last race so you can enjoy the rest of your evening, have some dinner, I believe, as well, and maybe get to bed a little bit earlier tonight because of that early wake up this morning. The last race is very tricky. And by the way, folks, after Acacia leaves us today, please stay on air. I'm going to show a replay or two and go through a few other things that we didn't quite have time for with Acacia. This is a 2-year-old race, closing out the last race of the day. It's a mile and 16th on the turf for 2-year-old maidens. A lot of question marks in this race, Acacia. Very tricky. Unfortunately, we're going to have no idea of the board, obviously, when you start the pick five. But who did you fancy in the last leg of this pick five on Saturday?
This is a really tough race. The number 9 Ridley's Major, I did kind of begrudgingly go to. I think that he will be a shorter price because I think that the public will just kind of default to this one. He raced really greenly first time out. I wasn't there in that debut because it was the Breeders' Cup weekend, but watching the replay, he's swishing his tail. He looks really uncomfortable in between horses. Just looked like a horse who really hadn't figured things out as of yet to me. And it's not what you're typically used to seeing. You're also not used to seeing a Chad Brown firster on the turf at Belmont that's 12-1. So I think if he is a super short price, I would kind of back away from him and try to find some alternatives. I think the 5-2 morning line would be fair on him. I think it's about kind of finding a value. Gun Runner has been a terrific start at stud. The number 2 Wake Surf, I am intrigued by getting back on the turf. He's a pretty generous price. I like that he showed speed. I disagree with the short comment in the debut at Keeneland. It says came out at the start. He broke inward a little bit, but it was nothing really major, and he was able to get a forward position without any problem. It just seemed like he showed speed and got tired, got a little leg weary. It looked like it was a first time starter that needed the race for fitness, and I think that he'll be intriguing getting back on the turf. And then I don't trust the number 5 Misbehaved. And so I, like you, ended up using the number 1 Immokalee, who I don't think has a lot of pedigree at all to run on the turf. And I don't think is necessarily a turf horse. What I do think we're seeing with this horse is that in his first 2 races, he's a big heavy type, a typical kind of curlin, and he's been really not really clued in, kind of spooky, didn't seem like he knew what racing was at all. And I think that that really showed in his races too. He faced some very nice horses in both of his efforts up in New York. I think especially that last race. So I'm willing to give him another chance switching surfaces. And sometimes it just is a little bit of a kinder surface as well.
Yeah, I mean, this horse has almost no turf breeding, but Mott is so dangerous. I don't know if this is sort of a desperation move. Let's just try him on turf,
Mm-hmm.
or they really think that he can run on turf. I had no idea what to do. But Acacia, I completely, and I'm going to talk about this more after you leave the show. I completely agree with you on the 5 Misbehaved. If you watch the replay with the 5 and the 9, I thought the 9, and you sort of touched on a little bit, got a very sneaky, sort of weird, I don't know about a bad trip, but twice was sort of shuffled back, lost ground. To me, the fact that the 9 Ridley's Major is a higher morning line price than the 5 is a bit surprising to me. Maybe just because it's Pletcher with the blinkers on. Sorry, go ahead.
Mm-hmm. No, I was just going to say they'll always bet Tom Pletcher at Gulfstream.
Yeah, but I agree with you. But and I know you do your homework. I mean, I thought he did almost no running. I understand it's a
Mm-hmm.
2-year-old, right? He can get much better. Blinkers on. He can move up. Who knows, 10, 15 buyer points. Just on the replay last time, I thought the 9 was appreciably better, like not even close. So it's gonna be very interesting to see how they run. Now, I'm sure I just put Pletcher in the winner's circle. That'd be fine. I like Todd, no problem. I like some other horses in this race over the 5. I'm going to go ahead and take this off the screen here, Keisha, and we're going to go ahead, folks. We're going to go ahead and let Acacia go here in a minute, but stay on air, folks. I'm going to show a few other replays. Acacia, people can find you on Twitter. They see you on the name tag there. Any final thoughts about the late pick 5 on Saturday, or any big events, anything coming up at Gulfstream you'd like to share, or anything on America's Day at the Races you'd like to share with the audience?
Well, I'll be back on America's Day of the Races in April. I'll be with Gulfstream Park on the simulcast team throughout the winter. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to this weekend. Potentially some preps, as you mentioned, for the Pegasus World Cup. That's on January 29th. And once we get through this week, I think that that'll be my main and primary focus and obsession for the next month or so. And same thing with everybody at Gulfstream. So really looking forward to that day, and hopefully we get that big matchup between Nick Go and Life is Good.
And I gotta end this last question. It's we're still a month out and or more than a month out. Knock on wood. Your very first instinct right now, if you had to make a choice, life is good or Knicks go.
I'm very much I'm not going to make a prediction until they draw because I think that
Okay,
that will be really key.
fair enough. Okay, all right.
Yes.
She's riding
I'm
the
keeping it
fence,
close to
just like
the vest.
I understand. Listen, I really hope we've seen this so many times, Acacia, where like these matchups don't materialize. I really hope they stay
Yeah.
healthy and sound because no matter what happens, that is going to be a complete
Hmm.
throwdown. I'm very excited. Acacia Courtney, I really appreciate you coming on, especially after a long day to the HHH Racing Podcast. And like I said, hopefully, knock on wood, I'll be seeing you in person sometime soon, whether it be a Gulfstream or perhaps in New York. Maybe not in the winner's circle because I know you want to stay professional. You don't want to get involved with that, but hopefully involved with some future family of yours and a horse of mine. That'd be really exciting. Thanks for joining the show. Have a great evening, Keisha. Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, Howard.
All right, take care, Keisha. Bye. Thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was Acacia Courtney. Again, I really do appreciate her coming on. It was a very long day, and Acacia was sweet enough to come on. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to go ahead and bring back the PPs. Normally, I don't do this, but again, Acacia was up early, and she has some dinner plans this evening, and so I didn't want to keep her on too long. There are a few things that I'd like to show that I think are of interest. So let me go ahead and bring back the past performances. The first thing I want to show is race 8, and this is going to be the 4 horse. And I talked about with Acacia on the show. I want to talk about Lori Lupes, and I want to bring up the replay of the last race. I'm going to go full screen here in a minute. I want you to watch the 1 in this race. Again, there were a few others that are coming out of this race, but watch the 1 who is the 4 on Saturday. I'm going to go ahead and go full screen here, and I'm going to go ahead and fast forward a little bit. You see the 1 is very comfortable, right? I mean, there's no question the 1 is getting a great trip. Again, the 1 is the 4 on Saturday. But you see right here, the 1 gets shuffled back a little bit, and then as we just let the go ahead and the race run, you see right here, it looks like the jock wanted to go. Like right here, he's just anxious to go. And then what you're going to see, watch the head carriage of the 1. He starts losing ground. Right. See, he wanted to get through that hole. And you see that? He turned his head and he got discouraged when he couldn't go through that hole and lost. I'm going to show that one more time. Lost several lengths. Watch this right here. There's going to be a hole. He's going to try to angle out and get through that hole. Right there. Did you see that where he turned his head and lost ground? And now he's sort of climbing and just not real comfortable taking, more dirt than he probably wanted to. And once he angles him out, you see right there, he angles him out. But look, he's already lost a bunch of ground as these other horses have quickened. So that was very subtle, but he is running on here at the end. So I just thought that was very interesting. There's really nothing in the comment line that says anything about that action. But again, these are things you want to look for. And I do think the 4, Lori Lupes, could be a bit interesting at a price, especially if you see this continued buyer move up the scale. This was a 76 up to an 83. If this horse can run into the mid or high 80s, Lori Lupes can absolutely win at a price. So I do think this horse is a bit interesting. I want to go ahead and show that replay to you. Another replay that I wanted to show you was in the last race. Let's go ahead to the last race, which again is a tricky 2-year-old race. We heard from Acacia already talked about Imokale and some other horses in here. I want to show the replay of the 5 Misbehaved and of the 9 Ridley's Major. Now, before I show the replay, uh, the 5, the comment line says chased inside, weakened late. I agree with that 100%. That's exactly what happened. The comment line on the 9, let me go full screen. The comment line on the 9 says 4 wide, upper stretch, late foot. That's all it says. Um, the chart callers in general do a great job. This chart caller did not see everything, or at least did not comment on everything. Let's go ahead and watch this race, and we're gonna watch this whole race if you folks don't mind, because I think it's worth watching. Again, these are 2 of the top choices in the last race of the sequence, so it's worth watching. Ridley's Major is the 8 in this race, and as you can see on the screen, Misbehaved is the 3. So again, Ridley's Major is the 8. He's going to be the 9 on Saturday. Misbehaved is the 3, the morning line favorite. He's going to be the 5 on Saturday. So what you want to do, of course, is keep your eyes on the 3 and the 8. Now, what I really want you to watch here is the 8, because the 8's the one that's Ridley's major. Take a look what happens. Ridley's major is going to be the pink here. Breaks fine, right? Watch what happens here. He's very wide right now, and the jock doesn't want him to be wide and takes an absolute stranglehold back, a very hard hold, and look how much ground he loses. Look, he just lost. Look where he is. And look at this hold he's got. Wow. So he was, if you can see you can see my cursor there, just to the left of the arrow. Ridley's major was up here. And I don't blame the jockey because you don't want to be wide on that first little bend at Belmont. But he was up here and went back, shuffled back, taken back, whatever you want to say, all the way to back here. This is a good, what, 4 lengths? I'm going to let you show it again. Again, this is not, I'm going to show you again. This is not in the comment line. I'll leave my arrow. Just watch where the 8, Ridley's major in pink, is. You see where he is right there. And he's going to be taken back, strangled back. And now he's all the way back there. So again, that's a good, I would say, 3 lengths. To me, that matters. Meanwhile, by the way, here's the 3 horse getting a dream trip on the inside up close. This is the Pletcher horse that is going to be the 5 horse on Saturday. I'm going to go ahead and fast forward a little bit here. All right, now let me freeze it right here. Let me freeze it. Okay. And sorry, of course, it's right behind the arrow. Here's Ridley's major, the 8 right here, and the 5 horse on Saturday is right behind the arrow. So now you can see that Ridley's major, by the way, let me back up a little bit, has already made a little bit of a middle move. I'm just going to get it run through. Has already made a little bit of a middle move to catch up, to the, sort of front of the pack here, as the 3 is just setting a good trip. But Ridley's major, the 8, is in between horses in a very uncomfortable spot. So this is not an ideal place to be. And you see also the jock is sort of shoving just a little bit to hold his position. Again, I'm going to go ahead and let this run through. Right now, the 3 and the 8. Now, right there, you see the 8 get shuffled back, and again, he loses ground. Let me go ahead, right there. So again, the 8 was around here, and he just lost another length and a half, maybe 2 lengths. He got shuffled back. Now he's in between horses and still sort of losing ground. And at this point, you'd have to say the 8's going to do no running at all. Gets to the outside eventually. Again, the 3 is getting a dream trip. Gets to the outside, and he's in between horses. This horse is coming over on him. He's in an uncomfortable spot. Meanwhile, the 3 is just sitting there. And again, the 8 is losing ground again. So now the 8's almost in last. Again, the 8 is almost in last place right now, beyond the top of the stretch. And meanwhile, the 3 is still sitting a dream trip on the inside. I'm going to let it run through. Watch here at the end. Now, all of a sudden, this 8 is finding interest and coming on late with a pretty decent finish. And watch the gallop out, too. I'm going to let it run. Here's the 8 right here. The 3, by the way, is back there. Look at this gallop out. He continues to run on and gallop out right up to the winner, right there. So again, there were a lot of things there to look at, but you got to do your deep dive. You got to do your handicapping and your homework, as Acacia said. Now, in saying all this, some people might be saying, Howard, why did you spend all that time? This is a Chad Brown horse that's 5-2. Well, this horse went off at 12-1 first time out. I know he's Chad Brown, but in the face of some interesting first time starters, and in the face of the 5 Misbehaved, who is Pletcher, first time blinkers, and Saez, you know the 5 is going to take some money. You might just get that 5-2 or 3-1 on this Chad Brown horse. And unless there's a firster that can really run, in my opinion, Ridley's Major is by far the horse to beat in this race, and could be a single if you really like that replay and think the horse is going to improve. Now, there is another first time starter I want to mention. If the number 10, Hail to Thee, gets in the race, I think the 10 would be very interesting. This is a Christophe Clement horse who's well bred for the distance for Tyler Gaffalione, although it only costs $30,000. That's a little bit of a head scratcher to me, but the horse is working well and bred well. The other first time starters that I would look at would be the 8. I think it's pronounced Scarab, or Scarab, I'm not sure. For, by the way, Rafael Hernandez, who's a great rider from Woodbine, who's down at Gulfstream to run this meet. And this horse is by Cairo Prince, who of course you don't really think about turf with that. But on the dam side, um, he's out of a Tappert uh, mare. She's a Kitty, and She's a Kitty dropped a very nice. I'll go full screen. Dropped a very nice turf sprinter, a horse named Abyssinian, who you can see was a graded stakes horse and was a nice sprinter. However, that horse was a sprinter. So there is some pedigree in the family of the H Scarab. I just want to mention um, that. The other thing I wanted to mention very quickly, and then we'll go ahead and end the show, is just going back to the Fort Lauderdale here for a minute. Um, Michael Maker's got three horses. He's got the 7, 10, and 11. I don't think any of them realistically can win, but I'm going to go ahead and give you some stats here. This is for the 7, 10, and 11. And I see some comments, folks, on the screen. I will get to those um, comments here in a minute. Michael Maker's got three. With Corey Lannery and Michael Maker, that combination, when Maker puts Lannery on at Gulfstream, 0 for 8. Okay, 0 for 8. Corey Lannery riding for Michael Maker at Gulfstream. You go to the 10, Order and Law. This is a relatively, actually not that new an acquisition, but this is a horse from Michael Maker with Miguel Vasquez. Vasquez is 23%. 23%. Vasquez Maker at Gulfstream. So I know this horse is 20-1, but he's got some early speed. I agree with Acacia. He's probably to be sent. If somehow he can outbreak the two horses on the inside, Analyze It and King Guillermo, I don't think Oren Law can win, but I just will say I think it's possible that he can outrun his odds. Oren Law is also stretching out, and Michael Maker is really good stretching out. Again, I don't think he's a win candidate, but I would not be completely shocked if he outruns its odds. The other Michael Maker horse is a Tone, and this horse has Jaramillo on him. Jaramillo and Maker only 10%. So again, Lannery on the 7, 0 for 8. On the 11, Jaramillo only 10%. But on the 10 horse, Order in Law, with Vasquez and Maker at Gulfstream, this is last 5 years, by the way, 23%. Just want to bring up those stats. Do with that whatever you will. Acacia is very interested in the 3 breaking the rules. I think breaking the rules has a shot. Don't love him, but he's 10-1. You might want to go price shopping. I know someone on the chat mentioned Dosewell, who is fast early, but I think there's going to be a lot of speed on the outside. I do not like Doswell in this race, but should set a nice trip. I suppose he can win. I'm just not a big fan of him in this race. Let me go to some comments. Let me take a look at them before we throw them up there. Wow, we see Allison is here. Thank you, Allison. Charles, that 8 at Belmont, 1 at Gulfstream will not get 3 chances to come back. I'm assuming Charles was talking about Analyze It. I don't love Analyze It. I think there's other speed trials in the race. We'll just have to see how that race flow develops. Will be interesting to see. All right, let me go ahead and take these PPs off my screen, folks. And I'm going to go ahead and bring up my pick 5 ticket here. Thanks for being patient. Then we'll go and end the show. So there's my pick 5. Now listen, folks. And I'm going to go ahead and I'll just go ahead and bring up these scroll at the bottom of a minute. I totally understand if you don't want to play the pick 5 and you prefer to play just the middle 3 legs. The middle 3 legs are the stake races, And if you just want to play those because you don't want to play a 5.5 furlong race on the Tapeta, and then you don't want to play a 2-year-old race on the turf to end the card, totally get it. Totally understand. I might actually do that. I don't know. I have to see. But if you're going to play the pick five, I think you have to spread in that first leg. It's just absolutely wide open. I'm 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm 9 deep in the first leg of the pick five. I just don't have real strong opinions, and I don't want to be knocked out. So I'd spread there. I would go ahead and single center aisle, the five, in the sugar swirl. I do not like Frank's Rocket really that much. I just think her best days are behind her. I think if center aisle gets the right trip, I think she's by far the most likely winner. If I had to single in this sequence, I would single with center aisle, who, by the way, is not, I repeat, not the morning line favorite in that race. I'd go 1, 5, 6 in those are the three likely winners in the Harlan's Holiday. If you can go skinnier and go too deep, I'd probably go ahead and do that. I'd probably of the three, I'd probably just use Fearless. Of the two, of the three, I'd use Fearless, the six, and the one, Mighty Heart. If I had to toss one, I'd probably toss the five, South Bend. Although I will admit South Bend could absolutely win the race. I would just go 212. Which are the two? Again, I'm not very creative in this race, but there really are not a lot of other horses I like here. I do like Space Traveler. Acacia was a bit against him. Totally understand why. Outside post, not ideal. I think there is enough speed to set up for him. But my top choice there would be the other Chad Brown, the two. So I would just simply go 212. Again, this is just a caveman, folks. I'm using breaking the rules defensively. I'm using Doswell, the one, defensively in an ABC ticket. And if you belong to the Race Day blog, you'll see that ABC ticket. So please make sure you subscribe to the Race Day blog. But in a cheaper caveman ticket, I would just go 212. And the last race, I don't know who's going to be in the race. So let me just say first, I think the nine Ridley's. Boy, I'm losing the name now. I almost said Ridley's Heart. Sorry, let me uh, get the name right. Excuse me, hold on 1 second. Let me go to it again. Ridley's Major. Excuse me. Um, if I had to single, I would just single the Chad Ridley's Major. And I'm not saying that the nine is going to be some kind of superstar for Chad Brown. Just compared to the rest of the field, I think he's definitely better than the five. And then he would just have to beat first time starters in theory, unless the one or two jump up. So the nine is my most likely winner. The eight, who is in the body of the field, who's a first time starter, I might be a bit interested in because of the breeding. And I think the trainer is underrated. If the 10 gets in, I'd also be interested in the 10 as well. I'm against the 2, although the 2 has early speed. The 2 just seems slow. And I got to admit, guys, I have no idea what to do with the 1. I'm using the 1 defensively. The 1 just would not be one of my top picks. There's just no turf breeding. And I just think there's others that are going to be better. But it's the rail. He's got some speed. It's Martin Alvarado. So I'm definitely using the 1 defensively. I just think the 9 is best in that race. Let's see here. Uh, Dean has a comment. How often do you see 45 breezing workout? Dean, I did see that. Dean, if you could comment in the chat who that was, I would greatly appreciate it. I remember seeing that though in one of the races. So Dean, if you're still on, if you can hear me or anyone, if you could tell me, Dean, where that was. I remember going through the past performances and seeing that work, but I actually can't recall. It was probably in the stake race, I'm assuming. I can't recall, Dean, who that was. The Doswell. Thank you, Dean. Yeah, not too often. I mean, that's crazy, right? As I'm looking at the PPs to the right of the screen here. Yeah, out of nowhere. But again, the Palm Meadows can be a very fast turf course. And if you look at other works, they are very fast. So, Dean, turf horses and their workouts, I don't know what to make of that. I'm not going to get overly excited about it. I mean, it certainly stands out like a sore thumb. And if that's going to affect your handicapping, I understand it. I don't know. This is a 6-year-old who all of a sudden, maybe if I would need to see a workout report. Now, if that was like an A workout report, okay, but I can't just go based on time alone. But certainly, no, I don't remember the last time I saw a sub 46 4 furlong work on the turf anywhere. That is definitely sticks out to me. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go ahead and wrap up the show here in a minute. I'm going to go ahead and bring up some reminders. Next show is going to be Wednesday. Now, next show is going to be great, folks. I'm traveling down to Florida, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, next week to see both the horses I co-own with the Delphi at the farms in Ocala. I will be doing the show from Florida. I'm not going to be doing it from the farm. So you're going to see a different background next week for the show. But I will be doing the show Wednesday late afternoon, early evening. And I'm not seeing the horses until Thursday. So I'm not going to have anything to report about what I saw at the farm. But I have a great guest coming on to talk about one of my favorite cards of the entire year. The opening day at Santa Anita of their winter meet, one of my favorite cards of the entire year. They have several stake races, including the Grade 1 Malibu as their feature. I have a fantastic guest coming on that's going to be specifically talking about trips and trip notes. So I'm very excited to have this guest on next week on Wednesday. So please check me out on Twitter. I'll send out an email as well, but it'll be late afternoon, early evening, or maybe my regularly scheduled time at night on Wednesday at around 7 or 8. Again, I'm not exactly sure, but I will send out information. Go ahead and check the YouTube channel too, because when I create the show for that, you'll see the time, and also, of course, when you get the notification, give me that thumbs up button, folks, and also hit that notification bell, and you'll see when the time of the show is going to be next week. But it's one of my favorite race cards there at Santa Anita, and I'm really excited about that show next week. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe that is going to wrap it up for us for show number 101 on the HHH Racing Podcast. Special thanks to a great guest, Acacia Courtney, who came on and talked about the late pick 5 on Saturday. Good luck to everyone at Gulfstream Park this Saturday, and hope you can join me for show 102 next Wednesday night. Thanks for joining me tonight, everyone. Good luck on Saturday at Gulfstream. Take care, everyone.